You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN E-mini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things E-mini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro. Joining us today, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today's Thursday, 9th day of October 2025. Thanks for joining us. Whoever you are, wherever you are, we're just glad to have you right here, right now. We do 2 live broadcasts every trading day. Now, the first live broadcast is our live training room. So that's reserved for members only and those who are taking their 1-week free trial. If you have not yet taken your 1-week free trial, when Michael joins us in about an hour, he'll walk you through it step by step. It's a piece of cake, take you 3 minutes. There's no credit card required. We'll get your indicators up and indicating today. Your trial will officially start tomorrow and will run all the way through next Thursday. The weekend does not count against you. Now, when you take the trial, you're not just getting access to the live training room. We treat you like you were already a member for 5 consecutive trading days so that you can sample everything we have to offer along with the live training room, so that at the end of the trial you can make a well-informed, intelligent decision as to whether or not trading is right for you. So again, in about an hour when Michael joins, he'll walk you through the couple of simple steps that you need to do to get your free trial started. And again, there's no credit card required. When the live training room ends each day at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, we take a 30-minute break and come back for this broadcast, the noon broadcast, which is open to the public. Everybody, everywhere on planet Earth with an internet-connected device. There's 2 different ways to join the afternoon broadcast live. The best way, you only have to do it once. Go here to mytradingiq.com. Scroll down the page to where it says noon broadcast. Click the link, fill out the 30-second registration form, and you're done. What will happen going forward is every trading day, you'll get an email about an hour before the broadcast starts. In the email, there's a link. So at 12 noon Eastern, you just click the link in the email, and it automatically logs you into our platform. The benefit there, you'll have access to the question box, so you can ask questions and participate in the discussion. Of course, there'll be days you're out of the office, away from your desktop, but you still want to join live. And there'll be days when you're busy, so you can't join live, but you do want to get caught up later. You can do both of those via our YouTube channel, which is easy to remember. youtube.com/CFRN. That's the Christian Financial Radio Network since 2005. But all you need to remember is youtube.com/CFRN. Not only do we broadcast live every trading day on our YouTube channel, as we're doing right now, simulcasting, but we also archive each and every daily broadcast. Currently, there's over 2,800 daily episodes archived for your educational and viewing pleasure. Oh, wait, I think it's over 2,900 now. When you get that many out there, you lose count. Hang on. Now you have me curious. So let's check it out. I shall do this, and I shall do this. Yeah, it's over 2,900 daily live broadcasts archived for your educational and viewing pleasure. Right here, we have our schedule for each afternoon broadcast. So we'll get started with our daily devotional, as we do each and every day. Now, today is the last day of the topic that we've been on for the past 10 days. Context matters. Especially when you're reading the Bible, which a lot of it was written in the first century. Some things have changed. Not everything means the same today as it meant then. Context matters because it provides the necessary background setting and circumstances to give meaning, clarity, and perspective to information, enabling better understanding, accurate interpretation, and informed decision-making. Yesterday was an especially good installment that talked about slavery. Now, here in America, we have a very negative connotation of slavery. In the Bible, we hear a lot about slaves. You see, and we learned this yesterday. So if you missed it, you can always go to the YouTube channel and check it out. We learned yesterday that in the first century, when this text was written, being a slave was actually a good thing. It's kind of like in today's society, having a job. You had a roof over your head, you had plenty of food to eat, you and your children got an education. It sure beat the heck out of being a peasant, or what we today would refer to as a homeless person. So, context matters. Today's scripture is Luke 5:27 through 31, and I'm going to share it from the NIV translation. After this, Jesus went out and saw a tax collector by the name of Levi sitting at his tax booth. "Follow me," Jesus said to him. And Levi got up, left everything, and followed him. Then Levi held a great banquet for Jesus at his house, and a large crowd of tax collectors and others were eating with them. But the Pharisees and the teachers of the law who belonged to their sect complained to his disciples, "Why do you eat and drink with tax collectors and sinners?" Jesus answered them, "It's not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick." Needless to say, they didn't like his answer very much. So as we wrap up this series on Context Matters, today's topic is tax collectors of old. Throughout the Gospels, the Pharisees often complained that Jesus ate with and befriended tax collectors and other sinners. Why were tax collectors so despised in first century Israel? Well, kind of probably the same reason the American colonists were upset about them, and people today are upset about them. And that sort of writes itself, huh? Israel was under Roman occupation and was looking forward to a coming Messiah who would free them from Roman rule and establish Israel as a sovereign nation. Tax collectors were viewed as collaborators with Rome. The people hated tax collectors for more than just this reason. Tax collectors were often corrupt. They were allowed to search anyone except Roman citizens to see if they might owe more taxes. They often extorted people, charging them more than they owed for the sake of their own profit. An ancient business document mentions a bribe of 2,220 drachmas, the daily wage of an average worker, for extortion, listed that way on the receipt. Speaking of daily wages, yesterday we talked about the slaves of the first century. They got paid. Very different from the dark early days of America. That slavery, not good. But the first century slavery we read about in the Bible, a good thing. You could not only earn money, you could save money. And then once you were freed, you were free. It's no wonder that tax collectors were not viewed favorably. This background makes Jesus' willingness to associate with tax collectors all the more remarkable. He ate with them and even made one of them his disciple. At one point, Jesus told a parable about a self-righteous Pharisee and a repentant tax collector, with the tax collector as the one going home justified. Understanding the historical background of tax collectors helps emphasize just how far God's grace extends. We'll pick up on a new topic tomorrow. Let's pray. Lord Jesus, just as you called Levi to follow you, call us again today to leave behind anything that keeps us from walking with you. Thank you that you came not for the righteous, but for sinners like us. Fill us with compassion so we may welcome others with the same grace you've shown us. It's in your name we believe and pray. And everybody said, Amen. Amen, and happy Thursday. So we're at $50 today for the third time in history, of all recorded history. No surprise, those who bought silver back in 2011, the last time it hit $50, there's always somebody that buys at the top. They've been waiting since 2011 to get back to break even. Was surprised that they sold, and so what would you expect to happen? Exactly what happened today. Silver runs up, rings the bell, and all of a sudden people start unloading this silver that they've been holding on forever. But keep in mind that there's a lot of people who bought silver back when it was $5, $10, $20. They're still in the money, and they may not be as likely to sell. Or perhaps they'll sell enough to cover their initial investment so that what they have left becomes sort of a free ride. We'll see what happens over the coming days. But again, let me give you all the numbers from around the world. That's the big news of the day. Starting here in the U.S. with the cash markets, or the indices as they're called. The Dow down 167 points. The NASDAQ down 44. S&P 500 down 18. And the Russell 2000 down 6. No movers, no shakers, but they're all the same color. And that's important to a futures trader. And right now, President Trump is holding a cabinet meeting at the White House. So if you see some unexpected volatility over the next hour or so, now you know where it may be coming from. The Fed minutes yesterday didn't rock the boat too much in either direction. Equities continued higher. Metals did come off a little bit, but then they reversed and, like I say, putting in new all-time historic highs today. So anyway, in the commodity basket, crude oil is down 52 cents, trading 62.03 last. That's a drop of almost 1%. Gold down $35.70, trading $4,034 last. That's a drop of almost 1%. Silver down 72 cents, trading $48.27 last. That's a drop of 1.5%. In the Asian markets at the close, the Nikkei gained 845 points, 1.75%. Shanghai rose 51. For the Shanghai, that's well over 1.25%. But the Hang Seng fell 76 points. In the European markets at the close, FTSE down 39, the DAX up 14, the CAC down 18. No movers, no shakers there. So we had a mixed day in Asia. It was a mixed day for the UK. But so far, it is a red Radio Thursday here in the US of A. Speaking of Thursday, tonight is our members only workshop, 8 p.m. Eastern. And we're going to pick up on a topic that we were talking about last week, which is the margin charged on micros when you're trading the overnight session. If you are a member, you'll want to be sure to catch that. If you can't be there live, we do record each members only workshop, and we do put it in the appropriate private channel in Telegram. Of course, when you become a member, you have access to all the private channels in Telegram. So there's the numbers from around the world. Let's go take a look at the news. Well, that's an inconvenient time for me to have to verify my identity on my own computer, but it happens. So let me type in my very, very long and complicated password once I find it. You have to be so careful these days. So many people, their full-time job all over the world is scamming you out of your money. when you get an email from someone you trust, I don't know, like your grandma or UPS, don't be so quick to click that link to look at the photos of grandma's birthday party, because there's a very good chance that email didn't come from Aunt Ethel. How do you know? Hover. Now, this is very difficult on a mobile device, but on a desktop, all you got to do is hover your cursor over the link and then look in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. And if it says Grandma Jones at AOL.com, well, guess what? It's probably her, if that's her email address. But if it's got any other kind of gobbledygook, like Grandma Jones 123 at AOL.com, don't click it. Call her up. Call Aunt Ethel. Say, hey, did you send me an email? Oh, I didn't send you an email. Ooh. You just saved yourself a whole lot of grief. Because once you click a bad link from a bad actor, and that Trojan gets into your system, man, your life becomes a potential nightmare. And it's not just email, it's text messages. And they look oh so convincing. But again, with, I'm sure most of you, if you own any crypto at all, probably on a daily basis, you get a text message that says your Coinbase confirmation code is whatever. If you did not request this, immediately call this number. Often it'll be a US toll-free number. But if you look at the number it was sent from, it's from a foreign country. You know, every country has an ID code, like the United States is +1 for international dialing. But I get all these from +4, which I haven't even bothered to look up. I'm going to guess it's Nigeria, Kenya, somewhere. Not trying to phone shame anybody, just saying. That's where they tend to come from. Now, why in the world would Coinbase send me something I didn't request from a foreign country when they know how to get a hold of me if they need me with a legitimate phone number? I mean, it's just from the moment your feet hit the floor every morning till your head hits the pillow at night, somebody is trying to steal whatever it is you have worked hard for. So please, please be careful. All right. So now that I've convinced my computer that I really am who I say I am, you know what I should do is I should put a camera on this monitor or on this computer. I have the camera here. I could just hook it up. And then I could use face recognition like I do on my phone. But enough of that. The first step in a phased deal between Hamas and Israel to end the war in the Gaza Strip has been reached, according to the president yesterday evening. I was amazed at how much excitement there was over this, when we know that how many times have these guys promised they were going to stop shooting at each other, but didn't? But hey, you know, without hope, people perish. Or actually, the scripture, I think, is without a purpose, the people perish. Anyway, the announcement comes one day after the second anniversary of an attack by Hamas and other Hamas-led groups that killed nearly 1,200 Israelis. A lot of them little babies. And they didn't just kill them, they did horrific things to them. And I'm not going to go into the details. You already know. While full details have yet to be released, the deal reportedly follows a 20-point plan from the Trump administration and would see the return of 48 hostages, around 20 of whom are believed to be alive. Now, what kind of monster keeps a dead hostage? That's beyond cruel. In exchange, Israeli force, and remember, Israel didn't start this. They were having a normal October 8th 2 years ago, minding their own business, doing what they do, and then out of nowhere came this Hamas attack. But all these kids on the college campuses, the ones protesting and marching and all this nonsense, they're so poorly informed. The one picture that I find always the most striking is some college kid who, instead of being inside getting the education their parents paid for, they're out on the quad protesting. They got a pride flag in one hand and a Palestinian flag in the other. Do they not understand that if they walked into any Palestinian territory with a pride flag that they would have their head handed to them? No, because they're too busy out in the quad protesting, not inside learning. Now, I don't know how much learning they can do, because 90% of all college professors are liberal. I'm just quoting a statistic. If you don't believe me, Google it. It's a true story. Federal authorities announced yesterday the arrest of a Florida man in connection with the Palisades fire, which burned over 23,400 acres in Los Angeles over 24 days this past January. Jonathan Rinderknecht, a 29-year-old California resident, is charged with destruction of property by means of fire, a felony with a 5 to 20-year prison sentence. Now, they're going to tack on more charges. But let's not forget that Governor Newsom failed the people of California in a great way. Number one, the reservoirs were empty. They say this fire smoldered underground for over a week before it finally erupted again in the Palisades. Okay, so yes, this young man started the fire. That's what the evidence points to. But if the firefighters, and something like 30% of the fire trucks were out for repair at the same time. Anyway, they hook up to the fire hydrants and there's no water. So while initially they put out the fire, it continued to smolder underground. Now, if they'd have had enough water, they could have probably soaked the ground well enough to put out the fire they couldn't see. But I guess that's a story for another day. 12 people died, 6,900 homes and businesses were destroyed, making it the 9th deadliest and 3rd most destructive wildfire in California history. And people who are trying to rebuild, a lady who lives in the Palisades and who blames this more on Newsom than she does on this kid who supposedly lit the fire. They've been waiting months to get their building permit approved at City Hall so they can rebuild. You know how many building permits for homes have been issued in the Palisades since the fire? 5. How many homes and businesses were lost? 6,900. Sounds to me like somebody does not want to rebuild. Former FBI Director James Comey, of course, pleaded not guilty yesterday to criminal charges of lying to Congress and obstructing a congressional proceeding tied to testimony he gave more than 5 years ago. The 64-year-old's trial is set for January 5th and is expected to last 2 to 3 days. Now, the plea comes less than 2 weeks after a federal grand jury indicted Comey over his testimony before the Senate Judiciary Committee in 2020. He allegedly falsely stated no when asked if he had ever authorized someone at the FBI to serve as an anonymous source about the Trump-Russia investigation to the media. Prosecutors contend Comey interfered with Congress' investigation by lying under oath, while Comey's lawyers argue the case is politically motivated. Okay, so what? So what if it's politically motivated? All the stuff that was done to Trump during the Biden years, was that politically motivated? Yeah, but boy, they let it go on, didn't they? But at the end of the day, the guy is still guilty. He lied to Congress. What was their chant during the whole time Trump was being persecuted? What was their chant? No one's above the law. Well, Comey, the chickens have come home to roost. Comey faces just 5 years in prison if convicted. While his case is rare, another former FBI head faced now dropped charges in the 70s after the Watergate scandal for allegedly approving illegal break-ins targeting a domestic terror group. Pundits say that this is Watergate times 100,000 on steroids. The whole thing, from the Hunter laptop to every other sleazy thing that was tried. Now, the laptop, right before the election, 50 intelligence officials, they signed on the dotted line that this was Russian misinformation. They knew it wasn't. Comey knew it wasn't. So the election came, Biden won, and then it was revealed that it was actually true. That really was Hunter on the business end of a crack pipe over and over again, doing all kinds of things with ladies of ill repute, ladies of the night, whatever you want to call them. So where's the punishment for that? A stolen election. Who gets blamed for that? Probably nobody. Just guessing. Big banks are walking a political tightrope in Washington. The country's largest banks are navigating a delicate balancing act in President Trump's Washington. CEOs for some of the biggest U.S. lenders, including J.P. Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, Citigroup, Morgan Stanley, and Wells Fargo, are all competing to win a leading role in a lucrative public offering for mortgage giants Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, a competition that has involved Oval Office appearances with the president. At the same time, Trump has called out some of these same Wall Street bosses over debanking. Some are now facing increasing scrutiny from their regulators over whether they denied or refused services to conservative customers. Their legal and regulatory affairs teams are currently combing through old records for any account closures. And there's a whole lot of trembling going on, because they're guilty and they're going to be found out. Now, will anything happen? Well, welcome to America. Netflix shares romped through the first half of the year on strong earnings and ambitious growth plans. But that rally is now stalled as a pair of unusual risks have investors questioning the company's elevated valuation. The streaming pioneer stock was the fourth best performer in the NASDAQ 100 in the first 6 months of this year, soaring 50%. And the second half of the year seemed to get off to a good start with the June 20 release of the animated musical. K-pop Demon Killers, whatever it's called. The movie has been a huge hit, becoming Netflix's most watched original film. However, the shares are down 9% since the end of June, while the NASDAQ 100 index is up almost 11% over the same period. Seems like Americans are coming to their senses and saying, we don't want this garbage piped into our homes. And if you pipe it in, we're not going to watch it. Now, I recommend shows on Netflix all the time. But you got to be selective in what you allow into your eye gates and your ear gates, because it will shape, ultimately, who you become. Google is setting its sights on Microsoft's AI-powered productivity services with its new Gemini Enterprise offering as the company seeks to monetize its vast artificial intelligence investments. Available starting at $30 per user per month for the Enterprise Standard and Plus editions, and $21 per user per month for the Gemini Business Plan, the platform is meant to go toe-to-toe with Microsoft's 365 Copilot. It will enable customers to use Google's Gemini to analyze corporate data and access AI agents all in one place. Google Cloud is uniquely positioned because we offer all the layers of technology that people need in order to use enterprise AI at scale. Now, if you think ChatGPT is cute, you haven't seen some of the other stuff that's out there. And I'm telling you, you better listen to that podcast, the Tucker Carlson podcast that I keep telling you about. It came out last Friday. I reposted the link in the Breeze channel again yesterday. Okay? The very people who, quote unquote, created AI and built these hosts like ChatGPT for this spirit to live in, they're running scared. You really need, I'm telling you, you need to listen to that podcast. It's 1 hour of your life you'll never get back, but I'll eat my hat on radio if you listen to it and tell me you didn't find value in it. I'll have to go get a hat, but for you, I'll do it. All right. What else do I have that I should share with a group such as you? Oh, a conservative group like you? Publix, that's a grocery store chain which has nearly 900 stores in the Sunshine State, Florida, will allow customers to carry guns in their stores after a judge overturned the state's ban on the open carrying of firearms last month. We have open carry here in Arizona. We even have concealed carry. An armed society is a polite society. As of September 25th, 2025, Florida law now allows the open carry of firearms. Of course, you got to purchase the firearm legally. Publix follows all federal, state, and local laws, said a Publix spokesperson. The guidance from Florida's Attorney General states private business owners may still compel individuals carrying firearms to leave their premises. In any instance where a customer creates a threatening, erratic, or dangerous shopping experience, whether they are openly carrying a firearm or not. We will engage local law enforcement to protect our customers and associates. Open carry. I mean, they have open carry in Chicago, where, according to the latest statistics, 5% of the population is a member of a gang. And they aren't just carrying a Glock on their hip. They're walking around with submachine guns. It's pretty scary. Not a place I'd want to live or visit. And here, this is the last thing I'll give you. CBS News. The aerobic freakout has begun inside the liberal media over the new owners of CBS News appointing the anti-woke Barry Weiss to the new post of editor-in-chief. None of the CBS veterans want a new boss with a new ideology. They like pretending they don't have an ideology. They call themselves courageously independent. Paramount Chief Executive David Ellison wants to put CBS News firmly in the middle. We want CBS to speak to that 70% of the audience that would really define themselves as center-left to center-right. In her initial memo to employees, Weiss stated several principles that are absolute anathema inside CBS. Journalism that holds both American political parties to equal scrutiny, and journalism that embraces a wide spectrum of views and voices so that the audience can contend with the best arguments on all sides of a debate. Well, we'll see if anything changes. Because what have they been saying on CBS? That all these riot videos in Portland, oh, those are from 4 years ago. Interesting. Because I saw a young man, an independent reporter on TV the other night, get arrested. He was attacked by the angry mob, but he got arrested. He was released, and because he's an independent journalist, he went back to see what was happening. Guess what? They beat him up, and he got arrested again. Because those who run Portland don't want you to really know what's going on. In fact, some official, I don't know who it was, did a commercial where he walked around Portland whistling. It was a beautiful day. The sun was out. All was calm. Yeah. I'm sure you can go to hell and find some corner where things aren't maybe so bad. I don't know. Maybe not. But do you get my point? He didn't go to the area where the problem is. He went to the opposite side of town, the wealthy side of town, where the rich people live. The ones who have security systems and perhaps armed guards and live behind gates. And they said walls don't work. Why do they all have them? Nancy, can you answer that, please? I don't think so. All right, moving on. Logic 247. That's our 24/7 around the clock E-mini alert service. Not just E-minis, but also crude, gold, and silver. Over the last 375 weeks, we've issued over 20,600 individual handcrafted alerts. And what we've averaged on a weekly basis is 20% or less of the alerts being stopped out based on simple market structure and a simple process we teach all of our passport holders. Valerie did this recap this morning at 6:30 a.m. Eastern. So throughout the course of the day, some of these numbers will change. So of course she will update it this afternoon, early evening before the members only workshop. But at the time she did the recap this morning, 6:30 a.m. Eastern, Since the markets opened Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern, we issued 43 Logic 247 alerts. One never triggered. Still waiting on the outcome of 15. That gives us 27 actionable alerts, of which 1 or 4% would have been stopped out. Again, based on just simple market structure and the simple process we teach all of our passport holders. Every Logic alert has an entry price, long or short, an initial target designed to help you get your goal for the day, most times additional targets, and then a final trade to target. On a long, it's the weekly zone above, and on a short, it's the weekly zone below. That's the final trade to target. The Logic alerts can come out anytime around the clock. Futures trade around the clock. We have traders around the globe. Our day session is their night session, and vice versa. The real purpose of the Logic alerts. Sure, you can trade them. Kind of hard not to. But the real purpose of them is to teach you how to read a chart. If you want to learn how to trade for a living with no gimmicks, guess what? You're going to need to learn how to read a chart. Only until you can read a chart will you ever become a successful trader. Period. Now, there's a lot of differences between the CTAs. The Logic alerts we've had for over 7 years, but 4 or 5 years before Logic 247, we had our original alert service, the concierge trade alerts. They don't come out around the clock. There's a lot of differences, but for the purpose of this discussion, they're published typically 5 minutes ahead of the Globex Open each evening. The Thursday session we're in right now began last night at 6 p.m. Eastern. It will end today at 5 p.m. Eastern. The Friday session will begin tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern. That's how it works. So the CTAs are published 5 minutes ahead of the Globex Open each evening for our traders and even trial members. What that means is 5 minutes before the market opened last night, all of our traders had all of these targets: the S&P 500, the Dow, the Russell, crude oil, the NQ, gold, and silver. And I made a mistake on the gold. I fat-fingered typing in the long target. The actual long target was 48.98. The short target was 48.22. But you'll see that when we get to the charts. And thanks to the gentleman that pointed that out to me this morning, because I had missed that. Okay, so when we go through the individual markets and you see these, just remember they were issued 5 minutes before the market opened, not after the fact. The Logic alerts come out before they trigger, well in advance, usually hours, sometimes days. So let's go look at the chart. Michael will be here in a few minutes, and what we don't get done, we'll do after he gets done with his recap of the live training room. So we got a new all-time historic high, 68.12 1/4. This is off by 3 ticks, 4. It's hard to get it exactly on it, but that is the new high right there, 68.12 1/4. Yeah, so that would be 1, 2, 3 ticks. Yeah, that's off by 3 ticks. So we had a bearish engulfing candle here. Now this is Thursday today. Here's Wednesday. We had a bearish engulfing candle. That means we took out the previous day's high and the previous day's low. No, wait a minute. That was on Wednesday. Okay. Now That is the single best reversal signal that you can find in candlestick land. You can download a thing I wrote back in 2011, 2012. Just Google The Secret Life of Candles. Okay. There's over 200 different candlestick signals, but in the course of your life, some of them you might see 2 or 3 times. They're really complicated. But there's 10 that you see repeatedly day after day after day. And the little book it's not a book, it's a PDF that I wrote. It breaks down so that you can learn to spot those. Now, it's interesting that it took a day for it to kind of kick in, all right? But it looks like it's kicking in. We'll see. We're still sitting on top of support. Price always reverts to the mean. In our case, the mean is green. It's called the BBC. It stands for bull-bear cross. When price crosses below the green line, we're bearish and expect lower prices, like that. When price crosses above the green line, we're bullish and expect higher prices, like that. The last bullish cross was back on April 24th of this year. We're well overdue for a retracement. Back to the 24, the 38, the 50. I welcome that. That keeps the bull market healthy. What I fear, and I sure hope I'm wrong, is that we get it all in one day. Because then people get hurt. This would be Black Monday on steroids. Okay? And don't think it can't happen, because it can. Okay? If you're not old enough to remember Black Monday, I wasn't trading on Black Monday, but I've certainly studied it and understand what happened. And because when the market drops enough, you got to understand that 70% of all trades placed on the New York Stock Exchange are computer generated. So the market only has to drop just enough. And then it's not men or traders, men and women traders, selling. It's the computer exiting the positions because it's been programmed in. If in any one trading session, this particular stock drops this great a percent, exit. Or if it's a fund, maybe they exit. It depends. 70% of all trades on the New York Stock Exchange on a daily basis are not placed by a person. They're placed by a computer based on an algorithm that a person created. Okay? All right. So we got a new high and we're sitting on top of support. I did put in the new Fibonacci extensions, connecting this low as I said I would yesterday to this high to this low. So we're just below the 62% fib extension. Here's the 100% fib extension. All alerts, both the logic alerts, the logic 247, and the concierge trade alerts, which I just showed all of them to you. These are the ones I said, remember, they were published 5 minutes before the market opened last night. This was the opening candle right here. Last night we opened at 6802.75. We'll call it 6803. And we ran up to 6812 and a quarter. That's 9 points in an hour and a half. You only need 2 points to get your goal for the day. We did come a little shy of hitting the target at 68.13. We missed it by 3 ticks. Okay, all I can do is try harder, I guess. When the market finds resistance, it's going to go look for support. The pullback to the BBC, I told you price always reverts to the mean. And in our case, the mean is the BBC, the green line. And price always pulls back. Now, what's important is that the pullback holds more often than it doesn't. But eventually it will trade through. As you can see here, pullback held, and it held, and it held, and it held right here. All of these candles are touching the BBC, so it held. And then over here, the pullback held. And then we made one last attempt to run to the high target, or to the long target, off the 9:30 opening candle today on Wall Street. But we failed to take out that overnight high last night. Right there's your heads up. Ooh, we could be heading lower. Okay, and look what happened. We came right down to the weekly trading zone, 67.87/88, and we bounced up to 67.92. Okay, we bounced to 67.92, and then on the second time we managed to get through the zone. We hit the short target, and we spiked the short target to the zone, but look where we closed. Then we come back to the short target again. This candle opened at come on. It opened at 82.75. We'll call it a 5-point drop to the short target. So you had multiple opportunities. You could have got it on the long side, could have got it on the long side, could have got it on the long side. Certainly you could get it on the short side. Now, this little double bottom here, okay, this lines right up with these lows from yesterday. But we got a big red candle coming down. Now, the step line's trying to cross red and falling. Hasn't done it yet. But if we take out these lows, then you need to look at this double bottom from yesterday. Then you need to look at this low right here. We got another double bottom, triple bottom, okay? And then where do we find ourselves? Right here. That's potential support. And then the zone. Zones have been just absolutely incredible last few weeks. We've published the zones for the last 15 and a half years, since December 14th of 2009. The vertical line you see here separates today, Thursday, from Wednesday. If I go back, there's Tuesday, Monday. See, when price rallies up to a zone, we expect resistance till proven otherwise. When it drops to a zone, we expect support until proven otherwise. It's pretty simple. You know what's changed over the last 15 and a half years? Absolutely nothing. Is that you, Michael?
That is me.
Okay. All right, Michael's here. So he's going to give us a recap of what happened in the live training room this morning. And then when I come back, we will do, we'll complete the recap of the CTAs, which again, everyone had 5 minutes before the market opened last night. And then we'll wrap up with our good word for the day.
Thanks.
All right. Looks good.
All right. Okay, let me just sign back in to this guy right here. All right. Let me just jump off of this for a second. I guess we can just stay on. All right, so here we go. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Thursday, the 9th day of October 2025. Now, if you have not taken a free trial with us and you want to, go ahead to mytradingq.com, click on the purple button. There is no credit card required for this trial. Just click on that. It will bring you to this registration page, which is going to change tomorrow. Bring you to this registration page where all we ask for is your name, your email, and your phone number. Down at the bottom, gives you TradingView, login ID. If you don't have TradingView yet, then click this button and go get it. All right. You only need to get the essential version, which I believe is about $15 a month, but you don't have to pay for that up front. You get a 30-day trial with it. And once you get that and you give us that ID, we'll be able to get your indicators indicating for you on your desktop. Okay. So next, we did not have a great day today. It was actually our worst day in the month. This month anyway, worst day of the month. We're down, well, we're at 627.5. We did have a bunch of stop outs today. We did have a bunch of trades too. I think we had the most trades we've had in a long time. I think we had 60 trades on the day this year. I don't think we had 60 trades anywhere this year. Did we? No, 60 right there. In March, not May. Anyway, we had 60 trades this morning. We're up 109 ticks on the NQ, 51 on the YM, and gold, which is where we had most of the stop outs, we're up 4 ticks, and on the ES we're minus 17. So we're up a total of 627.50 after 60 trades. Now, yes, I'm sure you're saying, well, commissions must have eaten a lot of that up. And let's just do the math. 60 trades. Oops, that's right. Times that. Oops, hang on. Times 60. There, so $150 minus plus 627. It was 477 per contract is what we have. So it was still positive even after the 60 trades. Now, got 109 ticks on the NQ, 51 on the YM, 4 on gold, and minus 17 on the ES. Today it took only 3 minutes and 1 trade to get to $1,000 with 10 contracts on, or 100 with 1 contract. 60 trades, 12 stop outs today. Right, that's about par for the course. You know, it's about 1/5 of the trades are stop outs. 1/5, is that right? 20%. Yeah, okay, that's about right. So on the month now, we're at 7,812 over 7 business days, averaging $1,116 per contract per day. On the year, we're now at $209,730 $730. 475 days, averaging $1,198 per contract per 2-hour day. Now, if you were to quit trading when you get the goal for the day and you would add 1 contract per month, so far this year, you now would have had to work just about 24.5 hours. And if you did it just like I did, you'd be on your 10th contract right now. You'd be up $151,247, averaging $6,185 per hour in the year so far. Okay, let's get into the trades. Gold was our nemesis. Well, actually, we ended up positive on it, but this is going to take a while to go through. We had 23 trades, I think, on gold. Yeah, I'm just going to hit that, use the control arrow, and go back because there were a lot of bars on gold today. I almost went to a larger time frame at one point on the gold, but I didn't because the larger time frame is much better. Here you go. That's a lot of bars right there for gold. Some days you can have all gold in one screen. Right now, you just have to hold that down and go. So on gold, our very first trade of the day, well, we got the gold for the day, was actually on gold. I don't know where the heck I did that, but I think it was right here. It doesn't look like I marked the very first trade of the day. Wait a minute, how many trades did it take? 3 minutes and 1 trade. So it was right here at 9:30, somewhere in here, right at 9:30. Is this today? 9 October? Yeah. I don't know. Our first trade on gold, we picked up 10. Oh, it was the YM that we got it. Okay, so our first trade on gold right here, we were break even. That's what I was looking for, a positive trade there. Good break even on our first trade on gold. And the next one right here, we picked up 10 ticks. And I have it blue like that because it was just barely on the midpoint. Right, then I stopped out here. That put us at -5. Then I picked up 25 there. Now that one was not on the midpoint, but I had the order ready to go and it happened really quick. So I picked up 25 there, put us at +19. So we're on a good roll there with gold. Picked up a little more over here, 10, put us at +29. Thought we were going there with the gold, then we stopped, and then we had a break even, and then we stopped out right there. That put us at 14. And then we missed one there that I made a mistake and we stopped out again. And that put us at -1. And then we stopped out again. And that put us at -16. So this one right here, it gapped down. Otherwise, I would have moved my stop to break even. That's why it's got the orange on it. This one right here did pretty much the same thing, but my entry wasn't great. But I stopped out on both of those. And at that point, we're at minus 16. Okay. I picked up 2 ticks there to get me to minus 14. Then we had a good trade come up here somewhere. Break even. Another break even. Then this one right here. Now, this didn't come off the midpoint. That's why it's got a different color blue. But we picked up 25 ticks there. So we went from minus 14 to plus 11. Right. And then we stopped out. I mean, we had a break even there. And we stopped out here. Now I screwed up. No, I didn't. Okay. We went from plus 11 to minus 4 right there. All right. Then went from minus 4 to minus 2. So we had 2 ticks there. Then we stopped out again, put us down to minus 17. We gained 5 ticks, put us at minus 12, a break even, a break even. Then we went from minus 12 to minus 7, so we picked up 5 ticks. Then went from minus 7 to plus 3, we picked up 10, so we're at plus 3. And here we picked up 1 more, and then we had a break even on that trade right there at the very end. Whew. So that was 20-something trades alone on gold, and we ended up just barely positive. You know, if you do the math on the commissions and all that stuff, you end up negative on gold net. But number of ticks, we did end up getting back above 0. So it was a bit of a challenge this morning with the gold. And that was really, you know, the back and forth on the gold was like an emotional roller coaster. It would have been if I was emotional about it. But fortunately, I don't have that for the most part. Now during the break, it looks like that wasn't right on the midpoint, so that wouldn't have been a good trade right there. That wasn't on the midpoint, so that wouldn't have been okay. This, nothing, this, nothing, this, nothing. Nothing's this right here was your first trade during the break, right there. That one was too high. That flipped directions here, and that would have been a good trade there along. Flip down and flip back, no trades, neither one of those flips. This would have been a trade right here. That would have stopped you out to the tick, maybe right there, depending where you filled. If you filled right here on a pullback a little bit, it would have been okay. But if you filled it right there, it looks like we're going to stop out to the tick. The next one was right here. That would have worked out. That was not a trade. That was not a trade. That right there was a trade, and that worked out okay. This, oh, nope, it wasn't up close. So, I don't know. That looks like it would have been a trade right there. That would have worked out. And a huge move down there on the gold. No, I don't know. Are these all-time highs we're hitting on gold? I don't know about that. All this movement in here with no trades. All this movement with no trades. All the way over here, still no trades. All the way over here, still no trades. All the way over here, right there, long trade. Right there, long trade. Right there, long trade. All 3 of those would have worked out just fine. Right there, that looks like it was too high. Let's just check. Yeah, it was right there, right on it. That would have been okay there for sure. And this right here would have been a good trade. This one right here would have been okay. That one, it wasn't really flat. You don't really get that. Oh, well, it wouldn't have been a good trade here because this didn't make a full cycle, so that wasn't bad. Sorry. This would have been an okay trade right there. This would have been an okay trade right there. This is all on gold. Gold was just wild this morning. That wouldn't have been a valid trade. That would have been right there. That gapped all the way down there. That was in the green, so no trade there. No trades, no trades, no trades, no trades. No trades and no trades. Wow. All right, so that was it. There were like 100 opportunities to trade on gold today, it seemed like. And I ended up just above break even on it. Now the YM was pretty faithful today. It was pretty reliable on its trades. All right. So on the YM, our first trade, this is where we picked up the goal for the day. We picked up 20 ticks on that one right there. That's where we got the goal for the day. Then the next one was a few minutes later over here. We picked up 11 ticks that got us to 31. 5 more there got us to 36. Then 31 to 36 and 10. Well, 36 got us up to, I'm sorry, to 36. Then we had 5 that got us to 41. 5 more got us to 46. And then way over here, 5 more got us up to 51. And that is where we ended it with the YM. Now, during the break, with the YM, well, right here was a trade on the YM. There was a trade on the YM, and that was nothing. Nope, still nothing. All the way through here, there was nothing on the YM. It was almost giving something right there would have been on the YM. All that chop. And it, nope, that would have been one. That would have been one. That right there would have been a trade. It was really mixed up. It wasn't easy to trade. The ES, now the ES had our number pretty well today. Of the 12 stop outs between the ES and the gold, they were pretty much all in there. Our first trade on the ES was right here. We got 4 ticks. Then I think, well, let me just go through it. We got 4 ticks, and then I either didn't mark that, or I did, and I didn't mark our stop out. But on my notes here, we went from 4 to -6. So this is where we went to -6. Then we went from -6 to +2, so we had 8 ticks there. Then we went from 2 to -8. And then from -8. Okay, no, I didn't, to some that aren't marked in here. Okay, so we went from 4 to -6. So there was a stop out in here somewhere. Then from -6, we went to +2. I think that was this one right here. We went to +2. Then we went to -8, which is that stop out right there. Then we had a +1 right there that got us to -7, and then a -10 right there that got us to -17. Right, so there was one stop out in here that I don't have. I have it on my notes, so I took credit for it in the overall numbers, but I didn't. I don't show it in here. So anyway, we ended up with, how many stop outs would be there? 1, 2, 3 stop outs. The number of stop outs is right. Anyway, moving forward from there, during the break, we had, that was a valid trade right there. And if you didn't get your stop to break even, that would have been a stop out. That was not a valid trade there. That was a valid trade there. That would have been a place where you need to get your stop to break even. Nothing, nothing, nothing. That was a valid trade there. That would have been okay. And that's it. That is it on the ES. All right. Now next on the NQ. I'm back. We had a bunch of trades on the NQ too. We had more on gold than anything else, but there's a ton of bars here on the NQ. So we had a bunch of trades there. Let's do this. Now our first trade here on the NQ, we picked up 8 ticks right there. And we stopped out, put us at -17. At a break even, we picked up 4 to get us to -13. Then minus 13. We picked up 45 right there to get us to plus 32. Okay, and then from 32 we went to 36 at a break even. This one didn't come off the midpoint, that's why it's that color blue. And we went from 36 to 44, and then next one went from 44 to 61. Again, this was below the midpoint, this was above it. Things were moving quickly there. I had the orders on, I didn't move them. That's why it killed me. I gave out of the color. But we went from 36 to 44, then 44 to 64, then 64 to 68, and then 68 to 80, the break even, then 80 to 86, then another break even. And we should have a stop out coming up here. A couple more break evens. There's a stop out. That was my fault. I stopped out on that. I think it's because I should have had my stop at break even. We went down to 61. Then there, that is. Oh, I entered on the wrong bar. Okay, this didn't go into the overbought, and I just totally screwed that one up. But I went from 61 to 89 on that, and then this one went from 89 to 64. So this one should actually not be a blue one; it should be a red one. But it was a mistake on a red one, so I guess it should be an orange one. We went down to 64 after stopping out there. And then right here, we went from 64 to 109. And that was it for the morning session. So we ended up with the NQ at 109. Now, during the break on the NQ, let's see. We had one there. One there. Both decent trades. One here was an okay trade. Not there. That right there was a valid trade, even though it changed colors. The background changed colors, so no, because of the background. But if you had your order there anyway, it was an okay trade to take if you had your order there anyway, and you got the help to get your break even probably. Then you're looking for shorts, and you didn't have any of those. And over here, didn't quite make it into the oversold. Nothing. That was a trade right there. That was a trade there. That was a stop out right there. And this was a trade here that would have been a stop out. Nothing there. This right here would have been a trade. That right there would have been a trade. That right there would have been a trade. Nothing there. That right there would have been a trade. This would have been a trade. All right, so there were some decent trades there during the break on the NQ. There's one just about happening now, and you see hit the midpoint, you give it down close. You can down close on this one would be a trade on the NQ right now. A down close on this bar would still be a trade on the NQ. If it goes up too high, though, I think it's up too high right now. We need to see the down close. Yeah, that's too high. No trade there on the NQ. No trade on the NQ. Okay, and that, oops, that was all of that. So on the ES right now, we need an up close and then a down close here on the ES. An up close and then a down close. Up close and then a down close. Yeah, it's ended up being no trade on the ES. Sorry. No trade on the ES, no trade on the NQ. We could still get a trade here on the ES. If we get an up close now and then a down close, it's got to come right back down, though. It can't go up anymore. So it could still turn into something on the ES. The YM doesn't have anything. All right. So for anybody that's just coming on in YouTube, If you haven't taken the free trial with us, this is how you do it. You go here to mytradingiq.com, click on the purple button. There's no credit card required for the trial. Click on the purple button, and it will bring you to the registration page right here. Just fill out the form. Just fill it out. All right. So, yeah. Okay, so we need this to be a down. Yeah, I need this to close down like that, and now close up on the gold. That was too far away. No trade on gold. No trade on the ES. No trade on the NQ. The NQ just flipped to YBR. The YM's got nothing here for you. So this is what we're looking at. It's Thursday. That means there's a partners meeting tonight. We do have some stuff we want to go over in the partners meeting tonight. Stuff we started to cover last week. We have more information on. And could be a trade here on the gold, I think. Just enough close there on the gold. Nope, no trade on the gold. It's too far away. Too far away. The NQ could be a trade, but I don't think it's going to. If you get an up close before it hits the midpoint, it's going to reset the midpoint, so it won't be a trade. The ES just flipped the YBR around, so that means a down close followed by an up close. The NQ could still turn into something right here. You could end up close on the NQ right now and be a trade. Okay, could still be a trade on the up close. The ES could also be one on an up close. All right, so get ready for both of those. Ready on the NQ, get ready on the ES. And there's the NQ. All right, and that's starting to run. Stop going break even on the NQ. Gonna lock in something on the NQ. I think that's 8 ticks right there. 12 is what I was going for. The ES still needs to close up. That was actually a trade over there on gold too. Right there, I didn't get. Okay, I think I'm gonna get 9 on this. And the ES still needs the up close. All right, does anybody have any questions about anything at this juncture? Anybody have any questions about anything that I'm doing? There's the up close on the yes. So jump in right here. The partners meeting tonight is at 8 p.m. If anybody has any questions, all you need to do is email them into us ahead of time if you want to. You can wait for the meeting, of course, but you can email them ahead of time. We'll make sure we get to them whether you're there or not. Here, I'm on the yes. Here you go. And let's go one more. There it goes. All right, stop to break even on the yes. Locking 2 ticks there. And we're out with 2 on the yes. What was I saying about the partners meeting tonight? There's something else I was going to say about it too. I can't remember what it was. Anyway, partners meeting tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Gold is really bouncing around a lot today. I wanted to put it on a larger time frame, but the larger time frame doesn't look any better. I didn't check the 47 range. The 47 range looks like on gold today. Okay, so the 47 range had a short right there that worked out. That did not come off the midpoint there. That was a valid short there that worked out. Spread it out. Doesn't look like it had any valid long trades through there. Starting here at the beginning of the day, it had 916. Nope, and it was all shorts all the way through. Had one right here that would have stopped you out. That's a big stop out on gold. On the 45 range. And 47 range, it's a 60 tick stop out. It's $600. Had one right here that could have gotten it right back though. Interesting. All right, let's go back to current times. 9 range. Let's see, while I was doing that, there was one short right here that was okay. If you get a down close, nothing on that one. On the ES, we got one tick on that, but it didn't follow through. On the NQ, we got, I think, something on that, but it didn't follow through. I forgot what we got on the NQ. The YM did not come out of the overbought like it should have. Okay. All right. All right, we're in the overbought on the gold. Just a down close on that would be a short. Down close on the gold for the short. Nope, no trade. The NQ's got potential here. The NQ still has potential. Needs an up close followed by a down close. An up close followed by a down close over here on the NQ. It's the only thing really that's got anything going on. And it didn't give it to us. The gold could have a trade here. Short on the gold on the down close. It doesn't go up any higher. Nope, no trade on the gold. Cancel. Gold flip to YBR. The NQ could give us a short here. You see, hit the midpoint. It didn't. You see, hit that midpoint, and it still hasn't. Now, if it doesn't hit the midpoint and it gives you a down close, if you can get it before it goes 10 ticks into profit, if you can get it on a little bit of a pullback here, it'd still be a trade. It'd be a trade you could take. It's a little bit higher risk, and it doesn't matter. It went into profit. Went too far into profit. While I was looking at that, there was a gold trade right here that I just missed. That was a good gold trade right there. That's a valid trade. All right, the gold could have something. Nope, it's too far away again. It's too far away. YM just gave this right here. I didn't see it. YM just gave a trade right there. A gap down. You can't get into that. I guess the NQ gave the same thing right there. And gap down there too. Oh, geez, guys. It looks like that's going to be it. It's going to wrap it up for me here. The NQ's got one more shot right here. One more shot. It needs a down close right here. That would be a pretty straightforward trade if you get it. The easy and obvious. That's what that would be. Has it filled the gap yet? It needs a down close. It hasn't filled the gap. There's the down close. Ding, here it is. Short. It's 10 ticks in profit. There it is, 10 ticks in profit. I'm locking a point. See, that's 2 points, 3 points, 4 points. Oh, we got all 45. All right. So that's a good way to wrap it up. It's right there.
Good job.
Thank you. So with that, we got 2 good trades on the NQ, 1 small win on the ES. I missed a couple of trades. I missed a good one on YM. I missed a good one on gold. But altogether, positive session. If you have not taken a free trial with us, go here to mytradingIQ.com, click on the purple button. There's no credit card required for this trial. You just click on that. It's going to lead to the registration page. Just fill it out. All right. That's all you need to do. mytradingIQ.com, purple button. And that's it. So with that, I can pass it back out to fabulous Phoenix, Arizona, in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Dwayne, if you are ready.
Yep, I'm ready. Okay, recap of the morning session.
Today, and I just realized I made an error this morning. I just realized it took me 2 trades this morning. It took me 3 minutes and 2 trades to get the gold. The first trade was a break even on the gold. Then my next trade was the YM. I got 20 ticks on the YM. So it took me 3 minutes and 2 trades to get to $1,000 per contract.
Good job.
Thank you.
Now, we had a lot of news today, guys, so we're going to cover all of the alerts in their entirety. We had just gotten into the ES when it was time for Michael to come on. So we'll be walking through each and every one of them today. First thing I'll do is show you where we're at on the week with Logic 247. Over the last 375 weeks, is a little over 7 years, we've issued over 20,600 individual handcrafted alerts. What we've averaged on a weekly basis is 20% or less of the alerts being stopped out based on simple market structure and a simple process we teach all of our passport holders. Valerie did the recap this morning at 6:30 a.m. Eastern, so some things have changed. She'll update it this afternoon before the members only workshop tonight. But since the markets opened this past Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern, we've issued a total of 43 alerts. 1 never triggered. Still waiting on the outcome of 15. That gives us 27 actionable alerts, of which 1 or 4% would have been stopped out, again based on simple market structure and a simple process we teach all of our passport holders. Now, whether you trade them or not, that's entirely up to you. But the purpose of them is to teach you how to read a chart. If you're going to learn how to trade, you got to learn how to read a chart. I know that everyone knows how to read, but a chart has no words, no sentences, no paragraphs, no punctuation. It's a whole different language. When you're reading a good novel, a page turner, as they're called, when you get to the bottom of the page, in your mind's eye, you already know what's going to be on that next page. And about 20% of the time or less, you're wrong. It's something different. That's what makes it exciting, right? Same with trading. You look at a chart, you can know with a great, you'll never know what's going to happen next with 100% certainty. But you can know with a great degree of certainty, as evidenced over the last 7+ years with Logic 247, you can know with a high degree of certainty what the next high probability move is. But just as you had to learn how to read back in kindergarten in the 1st grade so that you could now enjoy those page-turning novels, you got to learn how to read a chart. And the simplest way to learn how to read a chart is by properly using Logic 247. Whether you trade the alert or not, you bring up the alert, you bring up the chart, you draw horizontal lines, and before you know it, you don't even need the alerts. Now, Logic 247s have been around 375 weeks, a little over 7 years, very long time. But years, 4 or 5 years, maybe 6, before we rolled out Logic 247, we had our original alert service, the concierge trade alerts. And they're different in a number of ways, but for the purpose of this discussion, you should note that they don't come out around the clock like the logic alerts. Futures trade around the clock, we have traders around the globe, but the CTAs are published as a static report shortly before the Globex Open each evening. Just like last night, 5:55 p.m. Eastern. The Thursday session began last night at 6 p.m. Eastern. So all of our traders and trial members had all of these targets 5 minutes before the market even opened. So be sure to keep that in mind as we go through each one of the individual markets. The S&P 500, the Dow, the Russell, crude oil, the NQ, gold, and silver. So let's go back to the chart. In fact, what we'll do is we'll jump back for just a second to the daily chart of the ES. Look what's happened since the beginning of if you were here at the beginning of the broadcast. We talked about the bearish engulfing candle that we had. This is Thursday, Wednesday. We had it on Tuesday. There was a delayed effect of it kicking in, but it appears to be kicking in now. It's the strongest reversal signal in candlestick land. Okay? When we began this broadcast today, we talked about price sitting on top of support ×2, both the step line and blue and climbing. A break below that, which has now happened, means that the next area for potential support is right here at the 38% fib extension. See that little green line right there? After that, what are we looking at? We're looking at the low of this day, October 2nd, and then we're at the daily BBC. Price always reverts to the mean. In our case, the mean is green. It's called the BBC. It stands for bull bear cross. When price crosses below the green line, we're bearish and expect lower prices, such as happened back on March 4th. When price crosses above the green line, as it did on April 24th, we're bullish and expect higher prices. But remember, price always reverts to the mean, and for us, the mean is green. And you can see how the pullback held, or the reversion to the mean, the pullback held, the pullback held, until April 24th, when we got on the north side of the BBC and we went from being bearish to bullish. The very first pullback held, the second one held, the third one held, the fourth one held, the fifth one, the sixth one, the seventh one. Now remember, these are daily candles. We've had 7 reversions to the mean or pullbacks to the BBC on the daily chart. Okay. Now, here's empirical evidence that the pullback holds more often than not, but never forget, eventually, price will trade through the BBC, as it did April 24th, right here, and as it did March 4th. Okay? So just remember, the pullback holds more often than not, but eventually it will trade through. Now, after holding every pullback since April, what are the odds that this pullback holds? Nobody knows what's going to happen next in the market. It could hold, send us up to the 62% fib extension, up to the 100% fib extension, or This could be the time that it doesn't hold. Now, I've been talking for a long time about how desperately we need a retracement, a sizable retracement to keep the bulls strong. The shallowest possible retracement's the 24. That's enough to send the talking heads twittering about the sky is falling. But we really need a 38. What we really need is a 50. But I want to see it in a measured move. Leg retracement, leg retracement, leg retracement, leg retracement. But what's setting up here is something different. And I want you to be prepared for it. I don't want you to be scared. I don't want you to be afraid. I'm not a fearmonger. But what happens if it all happens in one day? Just a one-day drop to here, and everybody's out selling everything they got. Now, I asked this question yesterday, so I'm going to ask it again today. Now, if you own index funds, they're never going to go to zero because they're constantly being reshuffled. Out with the old, in with the new, okay? But the individual stocks that you own right now, ask yourself this question. If it were to go to $1 tomorrow, would you keep it or would you sell it? If the answer is you would sell it, then you should sell it today. I'm not predicting it's going to go to $1 tomorrow. What I'm trying to do is to help you make a wise, intelligent decision. It's far easier to sell into strength than into weakness. Because let's face it, once it drops to $1, you might not even be able to find anybody willing to give you $1 for that share. So think this through. This is very important. Okay? All right, so that's the big picture. Now we'll go look at the smaller picture daily stuff. Now, the CTAs I just showed you, that's these green lines and red lines you're going to see on the charts. Right here, the vertical line, of course, separates today, Thursday. Back here's Wednesday. I go back further, Tuesday, Monday. The horizontal lines are the weekly trading zones that are published every Monday morning, 6:15 a.m. Eastern. Once they're published Monday morning, they're carved in stone for the entire week. They don't change in any way whatsoever. So last night we opened at 68.0275. We'll call it 68.03. And we ran up to 68.12 1/4. That's 9 points over an hour and a half. Okay, 9 points. You only need 2 points to get your goal for the day. We came a little bit shy of hitting the long target. We missed it by 3 ticks. We got up to 68.12 1/4, and the long target was 68.13. Okay? When the market finds resistance, now keep in mind that was a new all-time historic high. Now you might wonder, okay, the all-time historic high is 68.12 1/4. How come it's not 68.13? Because nobody was willing to pay 68.12 1/2. There were orders in the DOM. Someone across this big blue marble, or this little blue marble, however you look at it, every trader had the opportunity to buy the market last night at 68.13, but not one single solitary soul was willing to do it. Huh. So now you know every time there's a new all-time historic high, the reason that's the all-time historic high, the reason's always the same. Resistance always sends the market looking for support. And as we know, price always reverts to the mean or pulls back to the BBC. And as you can see, the pullback held. You say, well, what about that candle? It's still touching the BBC. It held. So then we get another leg and another retracement that holds. Then we get another leg. But guess what? Now this candle opened here. But when it got to here, this is really important, look left. Right there. Where blue turned to red, that's your high. Number one, you should have been expecting resistance there. And the fact that we were unable to take out the early evening highs last night was a sign of weakness. And this is what weakness looks like. Okay. Price came all the way down through the BBC. This was the 9:30 opening candle on Wall Street. And where did it find support? At the weekly zone that was published Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. It bounced up to 67.92. 5-point bounce. And then down we come. And the second time it gets through the zone, it hits the short target, spikes it, but look, it bounces way back up. And then we go back to the zone. Remember, when price rises to a zone, we expect resistance till proven otherwise. Okay? So we found resistance at the zone, and that sent us where? Back down to the short target, basically to the tick. Support will always send the market looking for resistance, which it found at red and falling, which is bearish. Red and falling has now pushed price all the way down to this low right here. Now, we talked about this at the beginning of the broadcast. Those of you that were tuned in, I said the next area you should look for potential support was right here, right across these lows right here. Okay. You go to the bottom of the body of these candles right here. There it is. Now, look at the black step line. On the way down, the step line was on the left side of red and falling. They're running parallel. But what's changing? The step line is about to cross from the left side to the right side of red and falling. Okay, what does that mean? That means that price will most likely rally back up to the BBC or revert to the mean. And right now you've got resistance times 2. You've got the zone 67.87/88 and the 30-minute BBC. Now before that can happen, price has to overcome resistance at the step line and red and falling and the zone and the underside of the short target, this high and this high. However, when the step line crosses, more often than not, you're going to see that retracement to the BBC. Now, this one pulled down to the BBC. Here, we would see it pull up to the BBC. Does it happen 100% of the time? Nothing happens 100% of the time. Well, some things. Important prices, important areas are almost always tested. Yeah, you can take that to the bank. It's a fact. You don't believe me? Test it. Don't let it just be my knowledge. Don't let it be just something you heard some guy say on the internet. Make it your own. Put it to the test. So we're up against resistance. Okay, if we can consolidate one more candle, there's 11 minutes left in the life of this candle. If we don't break through on this candle, if we just consolidate sideways, that's going to drag the step line across red and falling. That's when you should start looking for the retracement back to the BBC. I've outlined the obstacles that are in its path, but more often than not, despite the obstacles that are in its path, that's what will happen. On the Dow, we opened below the BBC, so that means we're bearish. We had a leg down yesterday going into the close, so we get a leg and a retracement. That's how markets work. Look here yesterday at the Dow. Low of the day was the weekly zone. High of the day was the weekly zone. Well, let's go back to Tuesday. High of the day was the zone. Low of the day, the zone. Same with Monday. Now, leg retracement, pull back holes, sends us down to the short target. Pretty much to the tick. The zone is 780/85, and the low of this candle is 91. So we missed by a few ticks touching the zone. 80, 85, it's 91, 6 ticks, okay? When the market finds support, it's going to go look for resistance. Pull back held. We did have this wild card here that ran up. Now, last night when we pulled back to the VBC, you see right here there's a bearish cross. That's when the red line gets below the green line. When that happens, the first time price revisits that area will almost always be good resistance. So you could say that this was the first time right here, 2 hours into the open. Or you could say it's this, and we spiked it just a little bit. But look what happened to the market. Down she goes. We rip through this zone. We take out this low. Now, the step line has officially crossed, red and falling. So will buyers be confident enough to push this back to the VBC the way it happens under normal market conditions? If they don't, look out below. This is a spot where buyers should drive us back to the VBC. Now, because the pullback holds, more often than not, if that happens, we expect another leg to the downside. Should we trade through the VBC, then we have resistance at the zone, potential resistance, and at the underside of the short target. Okay? This is why I keep telling you, if you learn how to read the chart, instead of seeing chaos, it's like, when all else fails, read the instructions. If your trading is not what you want it to be, when all else fails, read the chart. The Russell. This was the opening candle last night. Now we're well above the BBC, right? So we're expecting higher prices. When we're below the BBC, we're expecting lower prices. Support, support, support. Okay. Yeah. These zones, they were published Monday morning. We've published the zones every Monday since December 14th of 2009, over 15 and a half years. And the only thing that's changed is absolutely nothing. Nothing. Okay. So we opened last night at 2,500, and we run up in the first 30 minutes to 2,503. There's your goal for the day. It only takes it's 3 points. It only takes 2 points to get your goal for the day. And then an hour and a half into the market, we actually hit the long target. Oh, we missed it by 1 tick. The next candle hits it. Did I really miss it by 2 ticks? Yep. Okay. You gotta believe the chart, right? Here, let's flush it out and come back. Take one more look. Missed it by 2 ticks. Missed it by 1 tick. But that's okay, because you had your goal over here. When the market finds resistance, what's it going to do? It's going to go look for support, which it found at the weekly zone. Support will send the market looking for resistance. Honestly, this is not an area where I would have anticipated resistance. Now remember, with the Logic 247 alerts, over 7 years of alerts, over 20,600 individual alerts. 20% of the time or less, the market does not do what we think it's going to do. It does not do the next high probability move. It does something else for whatever reason, okay? Could be some whale somewhere who's got an order in to buy, 100 S&P contracts. But he gets a little indigestion and thinks, man, I better go to CVS, get some Pepto-Bismol. So he pulls his order. Now, all the other traders watching the DOM, they don't know he has indigestion and he's just running to CVS. He's still bullish the market. He'd still like to buy them, but he doesn't want to buy that kind of quantity and not be able to sit and watch what happens to manage the trade. So what do other people do? They start canceling their orders too, because he must know something they don't know. Don't chase the Holy Grail that promises you perfection. It does not exist. The only perfection that ever existed in this world as we know it is Jesus Christ. Period. So we come down to the zone, support, catch a bounce, come back to the zone. Okay. This low here lines right up with this low market structure. That sends us back to the BBC. Now the pullback holds. Now we had a runner right here on the 9:30 open. Market opened, we ran right up and ding ding, tagged the long target. And then by the second candle after the Wall Street open, we've hit the short target. So over the period of 1 hour, we went from 25.04 to 24.86. That's 18 points. You need 2 points to get your goal for the day. And every one of our traders, even our trial members, had these targets 5 minutes before the market opened last night. This candle, see at the bottom, 1800, that's 6 o'clock in Surveillance time. So we come down, we hit the short target. We'll support, catch a bounce to the VVC. Guess what? The pullback held. I'm sure you're not surprised at this point. Pullback holds and sends us looking. Resistance always sends the market looking for support. And where do we find support? At the zone. 2472/73. So now what's the market doing? It's looking for resistance. Well, where could resistance possibly be? High of this candle, high of the previous candle, right here at the black step line, red and falling, bottom side of the short target, and then the 30-minute BBC. All right. Starting to rain. I got my dogs outside. I'm going to have to go bring them in. So I'm going to have to rush through the rest of this. The NQ. Here's where we opened last night. And here's where we hit the long target. Resistance always sends a market looking for support. Pullback held. We caught a bounce. Okay. See this little area right here? You got a wick sticking to the upside and a wick sticking to the downside. There's your resistance. Which sends us back down to the zone. 25,290/91. Then we just consolidate at the zone for a while. And then along comes the Wall Street open. Down we go. Now only one of three things happens when price encounters a weekly zone. 70% of the time is consolidation. 20% of the time is rejection. 10% of the time is the slice. See, this 30-minute candle sliced through the zone like it wasn't even there. When it ran out of steam, what did it do? It retraced back to the zone it sliced through, and then continued in the direction of the slice. Now this low right here, look over here. Support sends us to resistance, which sends us back to support, the short target. Right there. You see it? If you see it, that means you're learning how to read the chart. If you don't see it, that means you need to learn how to read the chart. Crude oil opened here, and in the first 30-minute candle, we're below the BBC, so we expect lower prices. We opened at, come on, we opened at 62.31, and we dropped to open at 62.31, and the low was 62.03. You only need 10 points to get your goal for the day. Again, you see that? Had your goal for the day, first candle. Then we hit the zone, published Monday morning. Support, consolidation. Once red and falling turns to blue and climbing, look for the market to take off, and it did. Right up to the long target. Should have known that ahead of time. That would be potentially good resistance. We spiked it. But really important right here. See this double top we have? They both failed to take out this high from yesterday. That's a sign of weakness. So down we go. Back to the short target. A bounce to the BBC. The pullback holds. Again, I may have mentioned it holds more often than not. And then down we come to the zone. Consolidate for 2 candles. Continue dropping. And where's the low right now? Right where you would expect it to be. We're consolidating sideways, so as the step line, if it crosses red and falling from the left side to the right side, expect price to rally back up to the BBC. And if the pullback holds, as it does more often than not, we'll get another leg to the downside. Now, this would be resistance times 3. You got the zone, you got the BBC, and you've got the underside of the short target. Gold. Rough day for gold and silver. So, as I mentioned earlier, hit $50 for the 3rd time in history. And people who bought silver when it was $5 are all the way up. They've been waiting for $50. Now, some people bought at 48 and some people bought at 49. They've been waiting since 2011 to break even. So, of course, there's going to be some dumping today. Some are getting out with a profit, some are getting out at break even. And the strong hands, just hold on. So this was the open last night. We dropped to the zone, actually got below it a little bit. We hit the short target on the way down. We opened at 40.61 to 40.53. That's $800 per contract traded. But it went a whole lot further. It went all the way to 40.35. And then it bounced off the zone, pulled back to the BBC, the pullback held, dropped to the zone, support, We get on the north side of the BBC, the pullback holds, and we get a leg, a retracement, and a leg. We hit the long target, but we failed to take out yesterday's high. Sign of weakness. Down we go. We get to the zone again, and look at the bounce. The zone's 35/30/36. The high of this candle right here is 46. That bounce right there, that wick. That was a green candle. That's worth $1,000. That wick is worth $1,000 per contract traded. And then the market found support here. See that? So what does support do? It sends a market looking for resistance, which it found at the black step line, and then at red and falling. And now we find ourselves way down in the way down. This is Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday. We're back down to the lows of Monday, almost. We're below the lows of Tuesday. Gold at all-time historic highs, silver at all-time historic highs. Silver opened last night, right here. Dropped to the short target. You only need 2 pennies in silver to get your goal for the day. Silver opened at 48.45 and dropped to 22. So that's 23 cents. It's basically $1,100, $1,150 per contract traded. Now that's just to the target. You'll notice it kept going all the way down to 47.98. And where do we find support? Right here. You see where the step line crossed back to the left side of blue and climbing? Okay, that's an important price, important area. Look for support there. The pullback to the BBC holds. When red and falling gets directly below price, it will often become support, as it did here, because it's on its way to becoming blue and climbing. So that pushes price all the way back to the weekly zone at 48.60. Resistance sends the market looking for support, which it found where? Right there. Where red turned to blue. Over and over again. So then we get a leg and a retracement, and then here's that high that we may not see again. Now, spot prices and futures prices are different. Okay. So we got 49.96 half on the futures. And we've dropped all the way to this zone at 46.95. We're starting to bounce off of that zone. If the step line crosses red and falling, we could see a retracement back to the BBC. If we do get the retracement and price trades through the BBC, just keep in mind, you got a bearish cross right here. So you should expect resistance there. At the high of this candle, at the zone, at the high of this candle, at the long target, right there. And of course, up at the highs. Remember, a lot of people have a lot of reasons for selling. Some people who bought at $5 or $20, they just want to cash in. Or they want to sell enough to cover the cost of their investment, because then the rest becomes a free ride. You got your money back, you still have a position. Probably the smartest move. Okay. Some people have held it for so long, they're like, man, I'm just out. So they just sell it. Okay. Now keep in mind, when you're talking physical, these are futures, but when you're talking physical silver, you're going to buy a premium. You're going to pay a premium to buy it. You're going to pay a premium to sell it. You hold it. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to pay anybody anything. But it's a decision that you should make. Remember, silver's been to $50 3 times in history. Back in the 80s, when the Hunt brothers tried to corner the market, they ended up bankrupt. 2011, of its own accord. And today. So if you hold a physical position, you need to be deciding, because you want to sell into strength, not weakness. Now, I know this looks very weak, but in the grand scheme of things, there's still strength on the board. Okay. Now remember, we're looking for potential support at the 38% fib extension, which it's hard to read up there because the numbers are buried behind the candles, but it looks like it's about 67 and 43, 44. Okay. And then below that, the daily BVC. To become a member, email Valerie, support@cfrn.net. Let her know you want to become a member. She'll send you the information you need to get signed up. Once you're signed up, she'll send you a ton of information. Create a folder in your email client. Call it CFRN. Call it Valerie. Call it whatever you want. Everything she sends you, put in that folder. Because even though you don't know what it is in the beginning, as your learning journey begins, you'll learn what it is. And you will need it. And the good news is you'll know where it is because you put it in that folder in your email client. Once you become a member, you'll get 2 hours of live training every trading day. On top, in an interactive environment. On top of that, you get private one-on-one mentoring. All you got to do is ask. The strategy you learn, the indicators you own as a passport holder, are fluid across all markets and all time frames. Stocks, futures, crypto, Forex, ETFs, it doesn't matter. Price flows the same across all markets and all time frames. From support to resistance, back to support, back to resistance, over and over, again and again. It's a never-ending cycle. It's simply how markets work. The key is you need to be able to learn how to read the chart so you know where to anticipate resistance, where to anticipate support. 20% of the time or less, you're going to be wrong once you get the hang of it. But let me ask you, right now, do you have that kind of a ratio? Do you get stopped out 20% of the time or less? Nothing to be ashamed of. You just need to learn to read the chart. That's all. As a passport holder, you'll get the Logic 247 alerts round the clock. They are the ones that will help you learn to read the chart. You get the concierge trade alerts every evening, typically 5 minutes ahead of the Globex open, just like you saw today and yesterday and the day before. Every Monday morning, you get the new weekly trading zones. Once they're published Monday morning, they're carved in stone for the entire week. As a passport holder, you get to attend the members only workshop every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. Now, to get all the things I just explained, you got to be a passport holder. But can you really put a price on those kinds of results? It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take some time. You'll stumble and scrape your knee more than once, okay? It's part of the learning process. Now, if you want to go it alone, it could take you decades. Or you can hire somebody to just teach you. Hand you some reliable indicators and say, okay, when this does this, then here's what you do, right? Just knowing you're never going to be right 100% of the time. It's not possible. But if you can get it down to 20% or less, you should do real fine. Last but not least, you get the golden keys that open all the private channels in Telegram. Everything a trader needs, all under one roof, one low price. It's a good deal. I checked. All right, good word for the day. Grace when you need it most. Hebrews 4:16. We will find grace to help us when we need it most. During World War II, Corrie ten Boom and her Dutch family hid many Jews from the Nazis. It was in an attic in a home in Amsterdam. I have stood in that attic. Talk about being overwhelmed by history. I was extremely overwhelmed. Eventually, she was caught from her little attic hiding space, her and her family, and put in a concentration camp where she saw all sorts of atrocities, including the death of her father and sister. Then she was accidentally released. She never became bitter. She never forgave the man who killed her relatives. Someone asked her how she could endure those dark days and remain loving. Well, you know what? I'm sorry. The attic I stood in was Anne Frank's attic, not Corrie ten Boom's. Just for the record. Someone asked her how she could endure those dark days and remain loving, forgiving, and kind. She answered with a story of how, when she was a little girl, her father would take her on train rides all over Europe. He would always purchase her ticket several weeks ahead of time, but he would never let her have it until they were boarding. That's because she was a little girl, and he didn't want her to lose it or leave it at home. But whenever her father saw the headlights of the train approaching the station, he would give her the ticket, and they would step on board together. Corrie said, the reason you can't fathom how I could forgive the person who killed my family, how I could not be filled with bitterness, is because just like my father and our train tickets, God doesn't give us the grace we need until we're about to step on board. He gives us the grace when we need it. But if you ever go through something like I went through, this is Corrie writing, I can assure you God's grace will be there to help you make it through the dark valleys and still keep your head held high and your heart filled with love. And that's our good word for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell. Oh, and members, don't forget, tonight, Members Only Workshop, 8 p.m. Eastern. Email your questions in ahead of time, or please have them ready. We'll try to start at exactly 8 p.m. Eastern. See you then.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading E-mini futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.